Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We are here. You are listening to BHI, the Lesley Show. And today's date is the 28th of December.
Already.
Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you had a lovely time and you got all the presents you wished for. That's to all the young children and to the adults, actually, you know, if you celebrate Christmas. But I hope everybody had a good time. I had a great time, actually. Nice and relaxing, and it was so nice just to have a couple of days off and just chill out and just recharge your batteries and just give yourself some self-love. And breathe. Yes. That's so true. Yes, so it was really nice. But it's really nice to be back here in the studio. And did you like that song? That's all about Angie Stone. We like Angie Stone. She's nice and cool and sophisticated. And yeah, we love Angie Stone. So we're going to be listening to a lot of Angie Stone today. And also listen to this, guys. We've got a bit of Mary J. Blige as well.
Yay.
We like Mary. So, have I told you my name? My name is Lesley, and I'm one of the volunteers over at BHI. And you are listening to BHI Show on Passion Radio UK. And if you haven't already, or you know somebody who needs the app, please help them. Download the app from your Play Store, iTunes, Play Store, Android, Play Store. Download the app. Every Thursday, 2 p.m. till 4, you've got the BHI Show, Lesley and Friends. And then from 4 till 6, you have got DJ KC. Woohoo! So it's every Thursday, 2 till 6. BHI is here. And if you'd like to do any volunteering, then contact BHI. We are on all the social media platform, and you can contact us on 0734 179 8948, or you can phone us on Leeds 0113 307 0300. And our social media, we're on Instagram, TikTok, and X. So get involved in the conversations. And today we've got a brilliant guest in the studio. We have got a brilliant guest. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Lesley.
It's Laura in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for being here, Laura. It's so nice to have you. So, Laura, please introduce yourself to our audience. Give them some background of who you are.
All right. So I am Laura. My surname is Pusey. And I am a death care practitioner. So a lot of the work that I do is around dying, death and grief, end-of-life care, funeral arrangement. I'm also a funeral celebrant, which means that I conduct funerals.
Wow.
So if somebody doesn't want a priest or a vicar or a father or a whatever, an officiant of that nature, religious, then I step in and I can do the ceremony.
Okay.
Any kind of ceremony that anybody would like. Even if they wanted me to do a religious one, that's no problem as well.
Yeah.
And I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. But if you want a tummy tuck, which I know you don't need one, but if somebody wants a tummy tuck, I'm not the one.
Okay.
If they want to quit smoking, I'm not the one. I work a lot with generational grief, generational healing.
Right.
I work a lot with ancestral connection as well via hypnosis.
Okay.
And basically just cleaning up the bloodlines, the ancestral bloodlines of the traumas that our ancestors have faced and that we ourselves are facing today. So when it comes to being a death care practitioner, I'm
you
all
are
of
the
it.
woman.
Yeah, from the moment of diagnosis, I can work with a family all the way through to the grief and bereavement, and also just helping, mentoring and coaching them, helping the family to get back on their feet after the loss of a loved one.
Wow.
That's it,
Wow.
really. That's all.
Laura, wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
With us. So it means today we're going to have a really interesting conversation.
Yes.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
But let me just ask you, my first question, or let me just say this, is Do people want to talk about death, or I think it's a subject which is really hard to talk about? How does that come across?
Yeah, it is a struggle in our community because it's like...
when you say our community, what does that mean?
I'm talking about African, Caribbean, diaspora communities primarily.
Okay.
But overall, people don't like to talk about death. Society doesn't like to talk about death, which is really quite ironic because we're surrounded by it, you know? We have the seasons. We're in the winter season now, which is considered to be the death of the sun, you know, technically speaking.
Yeah.
We have death featured on the television all day, every day. Somebody's dying, from the cartoons to the soaps to the films.
Yeah.
We see it as entertainment, and that's okay. But we don't want to speak about our own mortality and the thought that maybe one day we won't be here.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a fear that grips everybody. However, in my humble opinion, when it comes to people of the African, Caribbean, diaspora, Black British backgrounds, originally we celebrated death. We saw it as a transition, a levelling up. We celebrated the life, and we still do as well, the life that has been lived. So it's a bit ironic that we don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to rephrase our notions of death and what death means to us.
Yeah.
But I think, I can't remember what your question was, but I hope I've answered it.
Yeah, you have answered it. But the question was, you know, why do we not talk about it? You know, and it's so true. Why do we not talk about it? Yeah. Why are we so scared? Even when yesterday when I was putting the advert together, and I put down grief and death. Even after that, I was like, those difficult conversations, what we don't like to talk about.
Yes.
And I'm open to all of that because I'm quite happy to talk, because I know that's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And I know what I would like for my funeral, so we can plan it now. So let's plan our own funeral. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But is it because of our parents who they didn't really speak about death? Or when I was younger, I didn't really know about death that much. I didn't understand it. It's only now as an adult I can see, you know, there's a lot of death around me.
Yes.
So it's knowing how to handle it.
Yeah. I think it's only in recent times that we've really realised actually death is a thing.
Yes.
It seems that more and more of our loved ones are passing away, more and more of our elders. And at times when you try to approach them and, you know, to have these conversations, they're going to turn around and say, what, you want me for dead?
Exactly.
You know, you want to take my money? You're looking at what I've got, you know? And it's not actually a case of that. The best gift that you can give to your loved one is to have this conversation and to have it from as early as possible and to have it regularly to prepare them. I think that what's happened with us of the African, Caribbean, Black British diaspora backgrounds is that we have adopted or absorbed Western fear that's not ours.
Okay.
And that's a whole deep subject that I could go into another day as to where their fear comes from, but their fear isn't our fear. But I think being, you know, in these climates, we've adopted that, and so we do fear death. There's also the notions of whether you're going to heaven or hell. And I think a lot of people kind of worry about that. They don't want to think about it and they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to expose themselves for things they might have done in the past.
Yeah.
But what we also need to realise is that we are growing and learning every day. Yeah. And the way that we grow and learn is by talking about that which we have done, what we've experienced, what we've learned as a result. Yeah. We're coming from a background where we're told, don't chat your business. Don't tell anybody what's going on. Yeah. Anything that happens in the house, it stays in the house. Yeah. When you leave the house, you fix yourself up, back straight, and you put a smile on, whether you like it or not. You know, be a strong black woman. Yeah. Don't display any kind of weakness at all, you know.
And we've taken that from our parents.
Yeah.
And we're pushing that onto our children. Yeah. So like us really, our, you know, the 60s, we should be able to have these open conversations now with our children.
Yeah.
Because if our parents did that, we should recognise, that we actually need to change
That's
that
it.
onto our children growing up.
That's
and
it.
our grandchildren.
Yeah, it is vital that we change this narrative, because it's damaging ourselves and our future generations. Yeah. Which is why I've created a book called My Life's Tapestry, which is an end-of-life guide. So it's designed primarily for us.
Right.
All of my writing is primarily for African, Caribbean, black people first.
Okay.
Because I when I was growing up, I never came across any books that were written for us, by us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and anything that we do pick up normally is written with the predominant demographic in mind.
Right.
And we don't really get a look in. So
what can we find in this book then?
In this book, we're talking about your upbringing. We're talking about your family tree. And we're getting the person to chart their lives, to talk about their experiences, their favourite meals, what schools they went to, the friends that they had, who they married, what children they had. Chart it all down.
Yes.
And then talk about our rituals and traditions. What is it that's important to us?
Yes.
These are things that we don't talk about. Your belongings. Who is going to get the toaster when you do lay your body aside? A very good friend of mine, her whole family crumbled when Grandma died because she only left one of her sons a carriage clock. Helen Powderhouse. That was the one that she liked the least. So she just gave him a carriage clock and everybody else got money. And
wow.
Yeah. So it helps to know in advance who's getting what, and why. Let's have these conversations.
Yeah.
Also, when we get to it, we talk about how you would like your transition to be.
Yeah.
Would you like to pass away at home, in a hospital, in a hospice? Let's discuss this from now, because oftentimes we get to the hospital and we say, I want to go home. And they say, oh no, it's too late for that. And then you can find yourself making your transition on your own in a very sterile environment, because there's only like 1 or 2 people allowed, or it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and nobody's, making a phone call to get your family and friends in or whatever.
So are you saying then to have all this written down, or are you actually saying to get the people and talk to them and let them know what you're doing or what you're thinking?
I'd say either way. I created the book to help our brothers and sisters to have these conversations with their elders, with their partners as well, and with their children. Yeah. So that when that time comes, brother, uncle, mum, dad, son, whoever, son, daughter, can then say, right, where's the book? My Life's Tapestry. Right, okay, it's all written here. Yeah. This is what she wants for her funeral. She wants us all to wear yellow. These are the hymns that she wants us to sing. This is what she wants in her order of service. This is what outfit she wants to be wearing, when she goes home. So the book just goes through everything from beginning to end, and also what messages you want to pass down to your future generations.
So it's like a will, isn't it, really? It's like your will, because you've got everything there. Yeah. And so it's like your will with all your information about your life. And
that's it.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant.
It is a lovely little book. Yeah. If I
How
can
people get this book?
Okay, so it's available on Amazon. It's called My Life's Tapestry, written by Laura D Pusey, so that's me. And if they are struggling to actually find the book, if they put in Laura D Pusey and then click on my name, then the 2 books will come up. So there's My Life's Tapestry and Tapestries of Grief. Wow. Yep. Alternatively, people can contact me directly at www.dipism.com. So that's DIPISM.com. Dipism stands for Death in Practice. Okay. So that's my website. They can contact me through there and get my book as well. Get the books from there. And then I'll give my mobile number at the end of the show as well.
Okay. No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Laura. This is such an interesting topic, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we should have these conversations because we talk so much, so why can't we let our loved ones know, you know, when I die or when I go, then, you know, this is what I'd like. Yeah. It's just like you write in a shopping list.
Yeah, in a way.
You know, and you're just writing down all your things, what means something to you, what you would like.
Yes.
So, you know, and you just, I think it's really, really good to do that.
I agree. It's like when somebody is giving birth, they're told to write a birth plan, aren't they?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Let's write a death plan.
Yeah, let's write a death plan. Wow, with that, this is so interesting. If anybody's out there who would like to take part in the conversation, then please give us a call, 0734 179 8948. And we are going to be right back after Angie Stone, The Ingredients of Love.
Ooh.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the BHI show. You're listening on Passion Radio. And my name is Lesley, and I am with Laura today, and we are talking about grief and death. It's a subject what we don't really like to talk about, but I think it's a subject which is so relevant and is so needed because when somebody dies and you know, how do you deal with that? Where do you go? What actually happens? You know, if somebody just dies suddenly, it's really hard, Laura. What happens then?
Yeah, when somebody dies suddenly, how do you mean with regards to, as opposed to if you're waiting, if you're observing somebody passing away?
Family members.
Yeah. Okay. There's differences between the two, aren't there? Because when somebody is making that transition, then you have time to talk with them, to help them do a bit of a review of their life, you know, as they travel towards their new, you know, this transition. They may have things that they want to say, may want to unburden themselves of. They might even want to give, you know, I had a client who was like, I must tell you the secret ingredient before I go, you know. And then when somebody dies so suddenly, often, you know, what we would believe is before their time, then we don't have the time to say, I love you. Or, you know, goodbye, or, you know, where's the money? You know, oftentimes.
Do you know the lottery numbers?
Or just don't go, you know? So there are like the two extremes. I know that you've experienced both.
My brother died suddenly.
Right.
Just suddenly, just died.
Right.
Just died, and yeah, it was a really weird feeling actually. It wasn't a nice feeling. It was just weird because that was the first person close to me in my family who's actually passed away. And so I needed to see I needed to see him. To know, because I couldn't understand what people was actually saying to me. So I needed to see him, and for my brain to say he's passed away. But then it's, how do you deal with that? And that was a really hard time because everybody's crying around you. And you're left thinking, okay, let's get things organised and you know, so it was very weird.
So would you say then that you are the organiser in the family? Okay, all right. So oftentimes with African Caribbean, let's see, with our community, oftentimes it's like we fall into a hierarchy. Everybody knows their roles, you know, and it's like maybe the older you are within the family, the more responsibility you have, and it kind of peters down to the younger ones have not as much responsibility. The parents in this situation are often kind of allowed to just take a step back. And oftentimes it's a daughter that will step up and carry the proceedings, let's say, on her shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then everybody helps in accordance with what they can or want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my role was, like you said, founder role, my role was cooking.
Right.
That was my role. So,
okay.
And it was cooking big pots of food and, shopping and,
And nobody had to tell you that, did
no,
they?
No,
you just
no.
automatically.
Yeah, automatic. Yeah, okay. It's so weird, the whole, looking at it now, looking back at it, it's just like, it was just a role somebody needed to take and somebody needed to do. Yeah. And I did it. Yeah. And then, everybody, we all had different roles, but it was like nobody said, you do this, you do that, you do this. It was like we all knew our strengths, so we just fell into those roles and just organised things for, my mum and that. So yeah.
Lovely.
It's weird.
Isn't it interesting how we are structured? We talk a lot about the family being under attack and that we're quite fragmented. But I think what has drawn me to death most of all is the fact that when somebody does pass away, when they lay their body aside, everybody snaps to attention.
Yeah.
We come back, we put our differences aside, and we do what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
So inherently, deep down inside, we know the importance of death.
Yes.
We know the place that it holds in our DNA or in our lives, We just don't want to talk about it.
We just don't want to talk about it, yeah. And it's good that we're having this conversation, Laura. And I hope people out there, are, if you're going through grieving or, if you just lost somebody or if you need any advice, then please contact us and, reach out. Laura's here in the studio. You can, if you want to talk to somebody, because I think for me, grieving, sometimes you just wanted a minute.
Yeah.
You wanted a minute just to reflect on what's happened and what do I do, because when that person goes in the funeral day, when that day comes, that is it. That is the final day. That is it. And that's when, for me, that's when the grieving process started.
Right. Yes.
Because he was on autopilot.
Yes.
And now that he's gone, that coffin's closed, the dirt's gone on top and the flowers are laid on top, and you turn your back and walk away. Yeah. Now that is the hardest thing ever.
Yep. And that is the time when everybody seems to turn their backs and walk away.
Yeah.
And it can be the most isolating time. We find that we're on our own. Like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Up until now, we were surrounded by people.
Yeah.
And then they've all gone and it's quiet.
Yeah.
And it's in that silence that it can mad you. It can literally, what is this? I remember when my father passed away and I was like, but hold on, where is he? Where is he? What actually happened?
Yeah.
Where's he gone? What does that mean? What next?
Yeah.
And what do I do? And who am I? And what do I believe? It's a time often that we question our upbringing. We go back in time and we kind of review the relationship that we've had with our loved one. And yes, we mourn for them. We miss them. We've lost them. But we've also lost something of ourselves.
Yeah.
We are going through a transition as well. Grief is an energy, and we're mourning for what we have lost. So we're crying for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're crying for what should have been, what was meant to be, what we had planned. We never really sit down and think that our loved ones are going to die. Yeah. When I think about my dad, I always thought to myself, he was so popular. Such a big, strapping man, And I always thought to myself, wow, his funeral's going to be massive. But I never actually expected him to have a funeral ever.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
But I think most people don't think like that either, really, do they? But I was just one of those weird children. Yeah.
What could people do about grief then? What can we do about that?
Well, first of all, we need to recognise that it's an energy. It's an energy. Grief is an energy that works through your emotions. So what we need to do is we need to feel this energy. We can't avoid it. It's not best to suppress it. It's not best to put it in a box and leave it and say, oh, I'll come back to it. You know, if the person's been gone 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, you can still feel it like it was yesterday. And It's okay. We need to know that we can cry. It's okay. I have a dear friend called Amishade in London who is a ceremonial priestess, let's say. And she says that tears are the strongest form of libation, the purest form of libation. We must cry for our loved ones.
Absolutely.
We must cry for our loss. There is no shame in it. There's no weakness. Indeed, for us to cry is for us to clear away. What do you do when you're washing something? You wash it with water, don't you?
Amen to
you
that.
know, you cleanse and you purify. So we must allow these emotions to work through our bodies in whichever way they manifest, without shame. And those around us must give us that space to do so as well. Now, one thing that I have found in my work, the reason why I had to do this work and make it official, is because in society there are no places for us to grieve. African, Caribbean, Black, British diaspora. We do not grieve like Europeans.
Why?
Our grief is
Why?
different. We have got such a journey behind us. Let's put it this way, we're the eldest people on earth. We've been here before anybody else. Everybody else came after us.
Amen.
We carry so much more grief. We have got grief within our DNA that was never addressed, never acknowledged. The grief of our ancestors that went through the transatlantic period. They were never given the option or the opportunity to sit down and say, wow, you know, how are you feeling? It was just work, work, work. And they lost loved ones. We have ancestors that did jump overboard, that did take their own lives in situations where they had no other choice. We carry their grief, we carry their fear, we carry their pain. In truth, there is no such thing as time. So we carry their grief and pain in real time. And it manifests in our lifetimes as sickness, as mental health. And we also have learned beliefs. So that one of don't chat your business, don't cry in public, don't tell anybody what's going on with you. So from this lifetime, we've got a lot of tears that are pent up inside us. Now, if we do not release those tears, those emotions, they will turn into sickness within our body. So then we get, you know, sicknesses that we believe perhaps are carried down through the generations, like blood pressure, like diabetes. Oh, grandma had it, great-grandma had it. Why do you think that is? Maybe it's because she had pains and traumas and fears and worries that were never released. So I don't so much believe in hereditary illnesses. I believe in cleaning up the bloodline. And let's having these conversations and let's talking about these things, talking about our abuses, talking about, you know, these terrible things that have happened so that we can clear them from the body. When we don't do that, we don't even know about them, to be honest. You know, what I'm talking about here is quite new with regards to different concepts and ways of thinking. So oftentimes when we got sick, when our loved ones got sick, we'd just go to the doctors, be medicated with a chemical that would suppress the illness so that we can go back to work for MASA and keep going and pay our taxes, you know? So, it's just, I can't stress enough the importance of us being real and talking and facing ourselves, looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying, you know what, I don't want to tell anybody else this, but I'm going to tell you, talk to yourself and give yourself that love if you don't want to, tell anybody else, if it's that hideous. But oftentimes, I haven't been through anything that you haven't been through, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And if there's something that I haven't been through, then I'm sure I know somebody who has.
Absolutely.
And we all, being individuals, we all deal with our differences, different experiences differently, don't we?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if we all sat down and said, well, actually, my thing was to cook. That's how I got out of my grief. Oh, really? I started knitting. That's how I got out.
Yeah.
When my mum died, I wrote the book of my life. And I felt like my mother and my father were both writing that book with me. And I gained so much insight into their lives. Yeah. It couldn't have been my hand alone. Yeah. There are so many different ways, but I believe that we should come together and have these conversations and talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely, because it's so interesting. And so when somebody's going through the grieving process, because like we're just talking about people grieving in different ways, and some people don't know, well, not that they don't know how to cry, but they don't want to.
Yes.
They don't want to cry. Yeah. They want to hold all those emotions inside.
Absolutely.
And they don't want to share them.
Yes.
But then what are they doing to themselves when they're doing things like that?
Well, they're strong, they're in control, they've got a grip on their emotions, they know what they're doing, everything's fine. Is everything fine 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years later when they're sick? No, and then they often don't relate it back to that passing, that trauma, that incident that happened way back then. In short, when we do not release our emotions, when we refuse to feel them and allow them to work through our bodies, I'm not going to lie, it's painful, it's horrible, it's ugly, it's scary, it really is. But when we stop ourselves from doing that, we really can be bringing about a very early demise for ourselves, which then just intensifies the pressure for those that love us, especially if they can see that we're in pain and we're denying ourselves the ability to just release it. Yeah. Some people like to hold on to it because then it's their story. Yeah. If I get rid of my pain, if I get rid of my worries and my hurts and my traumas, will I be strong? Will I be, I can't have people looking at me as if I'm weak. And I think sometimes we build up this idea of who we are, but it's not based on truth. Yeah. It's based on societal beliefs. It's based on learned behaviours, things that we've been told about ourselves that are not true. Yeah, but then there's sometimes if you release all that and then you don't talk about that person, your loved one anymore, that can be hurtful as well, because then you think, why aren't people talking about my loved one? Yeah. Because we want to keep talking about them. Yes, absolutely. And that is, I'd say, where our notion of death must come in. As far as I'm concerned, death care practitioner, I work around dying, death and grief. I don't actually believe in death. Right, okay. I don't believe in death. Wow. Yeah. We're going to come back to that point. Okay. Because we're gonna break now. It's coming up to 3 o'clock already, and we've got the news. And so we're going to play one song before we go. Stay tuned, everybody. This conversation is so interesting. And if there's anybody out there who has recently lost somebody, or you're grieving, and it doesn't matter when you've lost that person. Yeah. If there's anybody out there who is finding the show interesting, and I hope you're able to take some tips away from what we're talking about today. And also, if you want Laura's book, you can go onto Amazon and put in Laura Pusey, and you will be able to purchase a book there. Okay, but thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and let's go over to Angie Stone. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're listening to the BHI show on Passion Radio UK. And that song was Angie Stone's Brother. Don't we just love that song? I love Angie Stone anyway, full stop. But yeah, Angie Stone is the woman. So if you just tuned in, you are listening to Lesley and Laura, and we are talking about death and grief. And if there's anybody out there who was going through, losing somebody, and I hope this conversation is giving you some tips or bringing you some comfort, that it's okay feeling however you're feeling. It's about keeping the conversation, letting somebody else in, not holding it all to yourself and keeping it all to yourself. It's sharing what you feel, because you said, which was brilliant, what you said about, when you're crying, your tears are, what did you say? I can't remember.
The purest form of libation. They clean, they're cleansing,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
healing.
Fantastic.
It's healing.
Yeah.
And
That's
our
brilliant.
bodies release hormones as well, maybe not hormones, they release something.
Yeah.
Our bodies release a chemical every time we cry. So we do feel better after we've cried, because the chemical that's released is like the feel-good chemical. Endorphins, that's it. Right, so every time we cry, our bodies release endorphins, and they make us feel better.
Yeah.
So actually crying kind of lifts our vibration, it lifts our spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like a good cry.
Oh,
I do like a good cry, because I do always feel better after a good cry. And I'm a believer is don't hold things in, because when you hold things in, you don't know what you're actually doing to your body inside.
Yes.
And I don't feel it's good for you.
Yeah.
So I feel it's good just to let it all out and just scream it out if you need to scream it out.
Oh, yeah.
And have a good cry.
Yeah.
And then, when you've had a good cry, you can just sit back and think, wow, that was nice.
Yeah. I needed that.
Yeah. It's always good. But you're talking about, we're talking about grief and death.
Yeah.
And you were saying about counselling. So what sort of counselling, what does that look like?
For the way that I work,
Yeah.
when somebody has experienced the loss of a loved one, oftentimes when I speak with them, when I work with them, I can find them at any level, let's say, of emotion.
Yeah.
But my thing is to raise their spirits, raise their vibration, bring them up to a higher level of satisfaction or happiness, let's say.
Okay.
And I do that by talking about the person. Tell me about your loved one.
Okay.
Tell me about them. Who were they? Who are they? Because they still are. Just because they've laid their body aside, it doesn't mean that they are not who they are. Who are they? What do they mean to you? What did they bring to you? Tell me about your relationship with that person. Let's talk about the day that they transitioned and how it happened. Oftentimes when people are grieving, there is a something that they just can't get over. It could be the fact that they've gone. It could be the circumstances surrounding their loss. It could be everything now that has to be sorted out as a result of their going, whether it be timely or untimely. Let's talk about that thing that particularly sticks in your craw, that thing that gives you the most pain. Let's talk about it. Let's take it apart. Let's dissect it. Let's look at it. And then let's look at it from another perspective. And oftentimes when I'm working with people, I'm explaining or showing them the gift that death has brought to them, the gift that their grief is giving them. And, again, it's not often that we think of death as a gift. Like, how can that be? I've lost my loved one. But what have you gained as a result? Who are you now? Who are you transitioning into? Who are you becoming? They've only left you, as far as I'm concerned, because they've done their work in your life. You will only go when you have done your work in others' lives. We each hand down, don't we? We hand down, we hand along with each person that we interact with. We rub off, we give something of ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't go just because the person dies. It's still there,
Yeah.
you know? We still have this memory of this time together. This information that I'm imparting to you, nobody can take this away from you. Maybe that is my only purpose in your life right now. But that doesn't mean that my purpose isn't something different to my children, something different to my friends in London. You know, we serve people. Our lives are service, really. And so I believe that we go when we have served. And sometimes
Wow.
our death is the gift that allows somebody to grow in a different direction.
Okay. So if that was the case, then when somebody dies before what we say is before their time, how do you say that to somebody? How do they receive that? Because they're grieving, they've lost this loved one who, like, you know, we've lost, BHI has lost Heather Nelson.
Yeah.
And Heather Nelson, she was 54, 55.
Yeah.
And that is young.
Yes.
You know, and so how can we say, all right, she's done her time and, you know, how do we recognise that? Okay.
So we recognise it in the legacy.
Right.
Just look what she did. How old did you say she was? 56?
Yeah, 55, 56, around that age, yeah.
Just look at all she did in that 56 years.
Yeah.
Look at the amount of people she touched, the amount of lives that she was able to positively affect.
Yeah.
She was a gift. Her life was a gift to the people of Leeds and beyond, whoever she interacted with. When we had the memorial service, so many people were able to speak of her personality.
Yeah.
You know, there were tears for her loss. There was also laughter and happiness and outbursts of, you know, giggles, because it's like, oh yeah, remember, that was who she was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we tend to focus a lot on the dark side of death, the misery, the grief side of things. And we forget what these people have brought into our lives. They've brought colour, they've brought happiness, they've brought joy and jokes, you know, food, laughter, dancing, you know, weird hairstyles and, you know, weird clothes and style and fashion, you know. They've brought culture.
Yeah.
They've brought their truth. For those of us who live in our truth, you know, they've brought their personality and they've shared it with us. And that is what we celebrate. So I never knew Heather, but we celebrate the person that she was. I never knew Heather, but for all that I've learned about her, I think I know her.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I've got an idea of the person that she was.
Yeah.
She's long gone, and yet I know her.
Yeah.
You know, there are people out of Leeds who are able to say, oh, I worked with Heather, had this conversation with Heather, I knew Heather.
Yeah.
When I put down on my Facebook page that, you know, we had the memorial service for Heather and Bridget, somebody in London, who I very rarely speak to, said, what, both sisters have gone? Yeah. I did some work for them back in XYZ.
Wow. Wow.
Right. You know, we're all connected. We are all one.
Yeah.
And yes, the person does die. They do lay their body aside, but they're still here. They remain in the hearts and the memories of those who live.
Yeah.
And they say, don't they, that you never really die until the last person stops talking about you or thinking about you.
Wow.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about our ancestors, our loved ones. We keep them alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's nice when we talk about them, because then you always remember something really nice, and then it makes you smile, and you know, so, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And that's yeah.
Just going back to what we were talking about in the break.
Yeah, you were saying that you didn't agree with death.
Oh yeah, just before the break.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's the importance as well of music, because music keeps our loved ones alive.
Absolutely. I love music.
Yeah.
I love music. Yeah, definitely.
And we heal a lot through music. And you were saying that you had lost your music at some point.
Yeah.
I remember when my dad died, it was just silence. I just stopped listening to music.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what happened? Where did the music go? Where did the sound go? And when I put the music back on again, it was like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, Laura, honestly, when I found this music and I started playing it, it took me right back. Yeah. I remember the whole room, what it looked like, what I was doing, what I was wearing. I could see it all.
Faces from the past as well. Yeah.
Honestly, it was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, we do love our music. Yeah, definitely.
I think there is so much to our brains that we don't unlock and that we don't use. Yeah. And there is so much that is stored up within us. We've got no idea.
Yeah, because you think you've forgotten and you haven't. It's there. It's there. It's waiting for you to get it out of you. But brilliant. So what's all this then, Laura? You don't agree with death. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think really we've just discussed it. You know, how can anybody really die when you know they live in our hearts and our minds? Hold on a second, I've got a sneeze.
Bless you.
Right. Okay.
But then. Yeah, I know that, but then it's all about like the feeling and the touching. Bless you, that's all right.
Sorry. What happens is the body dies. The body dies. And even when the body has stopped breathing, it still lives because it takes itself apart. Hold on.
Bless you. I think we're all going to end up with a cold in here.
It is rather chilly in the studio today.
It is rather chilly in here.
Yeah.
We're all wrapped up.
We are. So, the body stops breathing, but it actually isn't dead. It dismantles itself. It takes itself apart. It degenerates, you know. This is how intelligent our bodies are. It forms itself in the womb, and then it transforms itself and, you know, takes itself apart again once the spirit has left the body. For me, once the spirit has left the body, we are everywhere all at once, you know. There are people who would say, you know, I'm sure I can smell her perfume, or I dreamed her last night.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We have this innate feeling. And I think it's strongest with us of African and Caribbean diaspora backgrounds. You dream them yet? You know, you see any message from them? Have they been in contact with you?
I dreamt my dad.
Right.
I dreamt my dad. And when I woke up the morning, I'd actually forgotten the dream.
Yes.
And I'd gone shopping because it was for his funeral.
Right.
And I needed something to wear. And it was like this man who I know as my dad.
Yeah.
He walked past me. Because it was one of those where you've got to do a double take really quickly.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, that was my dad.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down. And as I sat down, Laura, the dream just came and just lit me in my head.
Right.
And I was just like, I could see the whole thing and him talking to me because my dad died on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And his birthday is 4 days after me. But he died on the 18th of April. And I was heartbroken that he died on my birthday. But after that dream, I'm honoured. I'm honoured. I'm going to get emotional. I'm honoured that he died on my day, because that just makes my day even more special.
That's it.
So yes, so yeah, I will always remember him.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
and weren't
it's
you named after him as well?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like you two of you had a special bond.
Yes, definitely.
And he chose that day.
Yeah, he did.
So
God bless him.
Lovely. Lovely. And that is the gift, you know.
Yeah.
But they say that when somebody passes away, they lose, I think it's 21 grams. So 21 grams is lost of the body, and that is said to be the spirit of the person leaving the body.
Okay.
So we leave the body aside and we continue to be. We've literally, that's it. It's that 21 grams, you could say, that animates the body, that makes the body move and, you know, has its likes for oxtail, let's say. But, yeah, when we have laid the body aside, where we still continue, we're just not in the physical.
Right, okay. Wow. Well, I hope everybody out there is enjoying this show. This is so interesting, and to say, you know, I was actually a little bit scared
Really?
to write it down that we're talking about, you know, grief and death, because I didn't want to upset anybody. I didn't want to. I just didn't want to upset people, you know, because it's Christmas time and why are you talking about death and grief, you know? But then I thought, well, it's all about loneliness as well.
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, people who have lost loved ones over the Christmas period, and I think it'd be, you know, it's really nice to have this conversation, because to me it's actually bringing comfort, because I'm actually able to talk about my dad, you know, my brother, you know, and so that's bringing me comfort. It's like, oh, and then I can see the little pictures in my mind and that. So it's true, you know, we're keeping them alive anyway. So I hope people out there are really benefiting from this conversation.
So. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a big baby anyway. I'm getting all emotional with myself. But I think it's such a brilliant conversation. And,
it is.
And thank you so much, Laura, for sharing your insights into this. It's just what a beautiful thing for you to do as well. But before you answer any more questions, we're going to play our audience. We're going to play you another song.
Ooh.
And then it's got to be Angie Stone again.
Okay.
We're going to play you. I think we've played that Life Goes On. Yeah, we have. Okay, let's play you this one, The Heat by Angie Stone. Here you go. Hi everyone, welcome back. Wow, I hope you liked that song. It's all been about Angie Stone today. But what a fantastic conversation we're having with Laura Pusey today. I know, you know, well, I'm hoping that there's people out there who are taking something from this conversation. Our conversation is all about death and grief. And I know it's Christmas time, and who wants to talk about that? But over this period, there is, you know, people who have lost loved ones over this period. And it's like, well, you know, where do they go to turn? Who do they turn to talk to about it? So, you know, just listen in. We're all learning something today, which is fantastic.
It is. This is a really important time to be talking about death and grief. As I said before, this is the winter time, so a lot of people do tend to die away. You know, in the UK, October, November, December, January, February, the colder months.
Yeah.
And so it is better to be prepared and to be having these conversations around now.
Yeah.
Also, there are those people as well who decide that they don't want to go into the new year, that they've had enough, they can't take any more, they're tired, they need to just be out of their body, you know. So it is a good time for us to be having these conversations. It's often sort of in the darker months that you know, death tends to have more of a grip on us. In the summertime, when the sun's shining, we tend to be happier within ourselves.
Yeah. And so then, people who are living by themselves and that, we should really just go and, check on people and knock on the doors and say hi. And because it's part of loneliness as well, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you can be in a room full of hundreds of people. You can be in your front room with your family and still feel lonely.
Absolutely.
And if that one person who you actually really gave, showed an interest in you, if that one person is gone, then sometimes, nothing else matters. So I think it's really important to check in on people who have lost loved ones, especially around Christmas time, when perhaps they might have made that time really special. Yeah. That's when we often feel the loss the most.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it is a hard one, isn't it? Because, like you said, somebody might want to be by themselves and might not want to, and like, you just said as well about they might feel like it's their time, they want to go. So
Yeah.
It's hard one, isn't it? Because how do you push it? You don't want to push yourself onto somebody.
Yeah.
But you want to, just, make sure that they know that you are around to, if you need any support or anything like that.
Yeah. I remember a woman, I had a conversation with a woman whose friend had lost a son. And I said to her, have you been, let's say the woman's called Sandy. Have you been in touch with Sandy lately? Oh, no, she knows where I am when she needs me. And I just stopped and I thought to myself, Sandy's not going to call you. She will never get in contact with you. It's for you to just drop by her house, maybe take some flowers. Sandy, I'm going shopping. Do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
Do you want anything from the shops? How you doing?
Yeah.
What's the latest, with your son's case, let's say. Ask questions, be interested. If they say, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you, then that's one thing. But at least give them the opportunity to say, leave me alone. Yeah. It's better that... And even when they do, if they do say, please leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you, it's best not to take it personally because they are going through a journey, they're having an experience. And as you said earlier on, there's no guidelines on how to deal with grief. There's no instruction manual.
No.
I've written something, tapestries of grief, but there's nothing that individually says, Lesley, this is how you are going to deal with the grief. This is how it's going to change your life. This is the direction your life is going to go in now. So you might have thought you were going to go that way, but actually the passing of that loved one is going to send you way off over there into the distance. And then you're going to come back here. But you're going to feel so much better because you had that journey and that experience.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard and painful and lonely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate.
Oh, you are really passionate. But yeah, it is going to be very lonely and very sad. But let's keep these conversations going. Because I think it's been really interesting conversation to talk about.
Yes.
And so where, if somebody has, like me, when my brother passed away, we didn't know where to go and what to do. How do you actually do all that?
Right, okay. So that's a really important thing, In our not planning for end of life, we often don't know who we're going to go to. If the person has passed away, let's say, they're in hospital, what happens now, So there are funeral directors, oftentimes from hospital. They have the numbers of generic funeral directors who will automatically be contacted. Now, if you don't want your loved one to be at that funeral director, then, you have to speak up. You have to, or if you yourself don't want to go to that funeral director, you have to speak up beforehand. Because let's say, and I've had this case with a few families, they will call me up and I'll say, okay, where is your loved one now? Oh, such and such funeral director has got them, but I want them to go to the black one. When they then go back to that funeral director and say, we want to take our mum's body back,
Yeah.
then they are hit with fees, storage fees.
Wow.
Well, we've had your loved one for a week. We collected them from the hospital. So you're going to have to sort all that money out before you can have your loved one.
Wow.
Loved one is held to ransom, you know. So then oftentimes families just end up saying, you know what, it's just easier to leave them with them.
Wow.
And go through the funeral process with them. This is why it's so important that we work ahead and we plan ahead, so that if you do die in hospital, then we know the funeral director you're going to go to. We've got his number here. We can call him up and we can ask him to come and get you. Full stop. If somebody has a sudden transition, let's say, they will be taken to a morgue, the mortuary at the hospital, local hospital. They may have to see the coroner beforehand, and then the family can be contacted to say, okay, we're releasing the body. By that time they would have the funeral director, and the funeral director will go and collect. Once you've chosen your funeral director, it's best that you tell them what you want, as opposed to telling you this is how it's going to be.
Okay.
You know, oftentimes we have been led to believe that they are in charge. They're not in charge. You're the one who's paying. You're in charge. You know, oftentimes with African, Caribbean, black families where we are upsold to, so our funerals cost more. They expect our funerals to cost more. So those people that don't look like us are often rubbing their hands together when one of us passes away. And well, we know you're going to want the horse and carriage, aren't you? And we know that you're going to probably want to go for a nice expensive casket, aren't you? And we know that you're going to want this, you're going to want that, because this is how you do it, isn't it? You know, now oftentimes out of shame that we don't have the money, or that, you know, this is we're unprepared. We've been caught at a time when we're very vulnerable, so we can find ourselves agreeing to stuff that's going to bankrupt us down the road. Our family and friends are not necessarily going to chip in. So it's really important that you choose your funeral director, and that your funeral director is transparent with you and says, you know, this is how much this is going to cost, the minimum. You know, how much can you afford on top of that? Then we also have to think about, you know, the location. Where are you going to have the funeral? And, you know, how much is it going to cost for the crematorium or for the burial? Are you going to be using a plot that's been...
Because can I just stop you there, Laura?
Certainly.
Because it's so interesting, because you don't think about all these different costs. What are going to be added on top. You know? But you've got to pay for everything. Everything. And then you're going to have a big celebration. And it's, where does all this money come from? It's crazy.
The DJ, the food, the venue, you know, the cars, the clothes, you know, everybody's got to get a new outfit, get hair done, you know, and have decent shoes on. You know, who's coming from abroad even. Oftentimes in the past, that was what delayed our funerals, because auntie such and such is coming, or granddad so-and-so is coming from far, from foreign. We've got to pay their fare to get them over here as well. Or are we going to, what's the word I'm looking for, send the body back home? You know, which then will probably mean that there's going to be a service and a celebration over here. Then there's the travel fair, and then the service or celebration over there as well. Everyone does their thing differently.
But what can people... Well, I mean, this is why we're having this conversation. So, you know, to start writing things down and letting people know, because the person who's passed away might not want all of that. What's just happened. You know, they might have just wanted something small. Or, you know, they might not have wanted that big. What's it called?
Show performance.
It's
a performance.
You know? They might not want all that. So if you have all these conversations before, that can be saving you thousands. It's not even hundreds, it's thousands.
Thousands. We're talking thousands. I had a friend for 15 years. We parted company. She passed away recently. And I was able to say to her funeral director, She wouldn't have wanted anybody to pray over her, no hymns, no singing, no nothing. She wanted to go straight to cremation, full stop. That's it, you know. And he was like, okay, thank you for that. Because we need to be having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Laura, can I just say, you know, if there's anybody out there who has lost a loved one and they're left with these high bills, you know, where can they go? What can they do?
Well, the government does actually provide some money towards a basic funeral if you are on universal credit, or somebody that you know or family member is on universal credit. They then have to take ownership, let's say, of that funeral. And so there's money there from the government. If a child passes away under the age of 18, their funerals are free.
Right.
And it's still going to be an expense, because you're still going to have to do the wake and, you know, buy the food, get the DJ, get the clothes, all that kind of stuff. But the funerals are free if they are a child under the age of 18. Recently, people have been doing GoFundMe and that to raise money for funerals. But, you know, it's... And, you know, people within families might just step forward. And it's really tricky, this money situation, because we haven't put money aside for our funeral. There's also the chance that you have put the money aside for the funeral, but because, you want me for dead, you want to know what I'm doing, you want to know my stuff, you want to take my money. So oftentimes we don't know where the money is. Or, you know, there's been no will. My dad didn't write a will.
Yeah.
And to this day, 20 years later, he has no headstone because of family conflict, you know. So sometimes our elders die knowing that they're leaving our families in conflict, knowing that once they close their eyes, everything's going to kick off. And I don't know whether that gives them some kind of satisfaction, like you're going to be, I don't know.
Yeah. But
there are so many dynamics.
Yes, yes. So if somebody has just paid for the funeral, arranged all the funeral and everything, can you, with a funeral director, can you pay in installments, or can you spread it over a certain time?
Okay, so the best thing to do is to get a payment plan, a funeral plan, before you're dying, so that you can pay off bit by bit for your funeral. So you can decide in advance, I'm going to want 6 cars, a horse and carriage, here's the money for the flowers and all the rest of it. When the person passes away, really and truly, the funeral should be paid for before the person is buried. Now, if you come to an agreement with the funeral director, then they may allow you to make maybe 3 installments, but they will not drag it out. This is the business, and they can't afford to be burying people for free. Yeah. So a lot of problems that we have. I've got people in London who are funeral directors, and it's often presumed that because you're a brother, because you're a sister, you're going to knock this off, you're going to, do this for cheaper or whatever. This is a business. Yeah. And so we need to be respecting our brothers and sisters, and there's so few of us that are actually doing this work. So I've found that a lot of people will go to our brothers and sisters for advice, who are funeral directors, and then they'll go with a white funeral director. Okay. Yeah. And there's, a lot of stuff. It's quite layered. We've got the whole kind of white Jesus saviour complex thing going on. There's so many dynamics to our death that need to be addressed, need to be ironed out. A lot of old thoughts maybe that don't so much work today, that we need to be kind of moving on from. But it takes time. Yeah. Yeah, and so you were saying about black funeral directors. So you said there isn't many, but are they based around? Where are they based? Well, we've got one in Leeds. Yes. Peter is our only black funeral director south of Manchester, I think. or it might even be north of Manchester. It might actually be north of Birmingham.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you think to the whole of the top, yeah, let's think Scotland, none. Newcastle, none that we're aware of. Yeah. York, West Yorkshire, it's Peter. Yeah. So I'm not sure about Sheffield. Manchester,
Wow.
no black funeral directors.
What is it about this job then? What is it? Because what is it? Why are we not doing this?
Well, I think it's a profession that we need to be in. You don't need any qualifications to do this job. I'm not saying Peter's not qualified, but you don't need any GCSEs or anything like that. In truth, the company, the industry is unregulated. I could say, that's it, I'm going to set up a funeral directors in my sitting room if I wanted to. Anybody can do this work. And what's traditionally happened is that it's been handed down through generations. So white families have been funeral directors and they've handed it down to their children, and that's generational wealth. There's nothing stopping us from accumulating generational wealth. The death industry is recession proof. We're always going to die. We're always going to need, funeral professionals to help us. I created an organisation called FACFO, which is the Federation of African and Caribbean Funeral Operatives. Through FACFO, I'm looking for people who do the work that I do. So end-of-life guidance, funeral arranging, funeral directing, help with grief and bereavement, and overall, helping us to get ourselves back on our feet. I'm looking for celebrants, black people like me who conduct funerals. I'm looking for funeral directors. Now, this is actually how Tashai and I became acquainted in the first place. So we go back through the death work, as she is Britain's first UK black female embalmer.
Yeah.
That's a huge achievement.
Absolutely.
She's such a phenomenal woman.
Absolutely.
And I've seen her work. She is so professional and so good at what she does and so thorough. The difference between her and a white embalmer is that she knows how to work with the skin, the texture, the complexions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it matters to her that she gets the makeup right.
Yeah.
So oftentimes our families are told, no, it's going to have to be a closed casket because deterioration has just gone too far.
Yeah.
Tashai can bring that person back.
Wow.
She can reconstruct a face that's been completely, destroyed, let's say. She is so good at the work that she does, but there's only one her.
Wow.
There are others that are training up behind her, but we need more embalmers, we need more funeral directors. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. If these people are racist towards us and don't respect us in life, how can we expect them to respect us or our loved ones in death?
Yes.
It's deep.
It really is.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so interesting.
Yes.
Why have we got them? Why have we got them? Why haven't we got these black directors, funeral directors? Why are we so short? How can Peter be the one person north of Birmingham, you said?
Yeah, Birmingham. Yeah, we've got about 3 or 4 in Birmingham and Wolverhampton.
And one of Tashai.
One of Tashai. Now, we do have people who are doing the work, but Tashai is a qualified embalmer who's been to, she's been to embalming school.
Yeah.
And also, as well, did a master's in... No, I don't think she did.
Yes, she did. She did a master's in...
Yeah.
I should know this, humanitarian or...
Well, yeah, she's also an aid worker, so she's phenomenal.
Tasha, if you're listening, sorry for the correction. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's an expert in international aid.
Yes.
So if somebody were to, if there was a plane crash, if there was a natural disaster, Tasha is the person who will go there, and she will be literally collecting up pieces of body, bagging them up and ensuring that, everything is presented back to the family as best as possible. Her work is, there's not many people that I look up to She is like goals for me. I'm like, I pale into insignificance if I try to compare myself to Tasha, which I can't. But she also did theatre. I'm trying to think of the word, makeup.
Yeah.
But we're talking sort of reconstruction, theatrical makeup.
Yeah.
The word has literally left my mind.
Okay.
But anyway, it's through that kind of, we've had so many discussions about this. We've done work together, and this is really important to both of us.
Yeah.
We have the ability to train everybody up to be funeral directors, to be end-of-life guides, to be grief and bereavement workers, care workers, mentors, counsellors, and coaches. We have the ability. Throughout my organisation, I have a steering group, and again, I have got people who are actually doing the work.
Yeah.
We need more. We can't do this alone. It doesn't exist without our community. There are so many of us in the UK. We need to be coming together. And just as you said, that when your brother passed away, you knew what your role was. We all do this work.
Yeah.
We all are involved in death work. We all know instinctively, this is what I do, this is where I step up.
Yeah.
We need to be able to offer our services to those of us that don't have family, that don't have friends, that are not part of a community. And that's really where my work started, because when my aunt died, I realised that my cousins weren't part of the black community. I was like, where's the black florists? Where are we going to get hold of a DJ to do this work? Who's going to do the catering? And then it was a white woman who did my aunt's funeral. And I thought to myself, but you don't know her. You don't know our culture. You don't know anything about us. You don't know anything about my aunt, the kind of person she was. And so from then on, I was like, you know what, I'm doing this in future. And that's it. Anybody can. We can all do our own funerals. We can all collect the body ourselves from the morgue. We can have the body at home with us. We can then take the body to be buried or cremated. There are no rules. There are no rules.
Wow. Laura, thank you so much. It has been absolutely fascinating subject.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today on this platform. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Wow. I am just like, wow. Wow. Definitely. I hope everyone out there has enjoyed these 2 hours. It's 2 hours already. It's 4 o'clock. It's crazy. But yeah, we've got to go now, and
we're coming up.
Yeah, we've got KC, DJ KC, who is next. She's on 4 till 6, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, it's music, so we're not talking about death anymore. No death, no grief. Yeah. You're going to be shaking your 2 foot and partying. It's Christmas. So enjoy KC, and thank you so much to everybody who was listening, who tuned into the conversation today. Absolutely fascinating, so interesting. Thank you so much, Laura. If you've got any questions, you want to know anything else, then please get in touch with us.
They can call me.
BHI, yes. Yep. Go ahead, Laura.
My number is 07975 861089. If you want to talk to me about anything pertaining to dying, death or grief, my mobile number is 07975 861089. I'm not precious. Pass it on to anybody who you feel needs that help or support.
That's brilliant, Laura. Thank you so much. And if you need Laura's books, then please go on to Amazon, and it's Laura Pusey, and you will find the books there on Amazon. But thank you again, Laura. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. And let's play our last song, Angie Stone, $20. Here you go.